Recently, I cracked PWC interview and this was the questions asked to me in the interview. So let's get started. So the first question was, what kind of data setup is required to use FSL and what are the important objects in FSL? So in my resume, I have worked on FSL for 1.5 years to 2 years. So that's the reason why this question was asked to me. So the data setup that is required in the case of the FSL in normal terms is work type. First, basically you have to create a work type, and this work type can be used in order to basically you create a work type. Okay, this work type is used to create the template. Okay, whatever template which are necessary in order to complete the work order, you specify all those templates inside the work type, and there is something called a skill required. Okay, you have to attach the skill required to the work type, and also there is a skill. Okay, so basically there is a skill and work type which is a parent object, and skill required will be acting as a junction object in both of them. But basically you create first of all a work type. This work type will define the template of type work, like type of the work you are going to perform. Next, we have to also create products, right? You have to create products which will be attached to the assets. We have to create the price book entries, we have to create the price book, and one of the most important record or one of the most important object over here is service territory and service resources, and in between them there will be service territory members, and operating hours also you have to mention. So basically there will be service territories which will define in what places we do give the services, and service resource, and in what service, like service resource are nothing but the people who are going to work on that particular work order, right? So in between service territory and service resources, there is service territory members, defines in which territories which members are usually working, and operating hours define in basically what time we do work. And the most important objects in the FSL is work order, work time, work order line item, service appointment, service territory, and service resources. So let's get started with the next question, that is how to create a user for FSL mobile app. Now, in order to create an FSL mobile app user, first what you need to do is you need to create a permission set. Okay, you need to create a permission set, and as soon as you create a permission set, what you need to do is you need to go to the system permission, and inside the system permission there are two checkboxes. As soon as you enable the field service lightning, there are two checkboxes: field service lightning mobile license and field service lightning standard license. You have to check both of the checkbox only once that permission set is created, and you assign any user this permission sets, then that user will be able to log into the field service lightning mobile apps. So this was the answer to this question. Let's move on to the next question, that is what are service objects and what are work rules, right? So in simple terms, okay, if you want to create a scheduling policy, any kind of a scheduling policy is together formed with the help of work rules and the service objects. Now what this work rules is used for is to define the conditions to assign the resources. Okay, so there are steady rules with the help of which assignment of the work order to the resources will happen. So basically work rules, it defines condition to assign work. Okay, and there's another object called as service objects. Okay, this is used to define the KPIs, okay, of the businesses. Okay, what are the key pointers of your businesses? This has been defined by the service objects, and the work rules defines the conditions to assign the work. Together both of them, if you add both of them, they will form the scheduling policy. Okay, if you add both of them, forms the scheduling policy. Now scheduling policy is nothing but in what terms a work order must be assigned to a particular resource defines the scheduling policy. One of the scheduling policies, first come first serve, like whichever customer is going to come first, for them we have to assign the work order. So these are some of the scheduling policies. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, this what is an order of execution in Salesforce? Now order of execution is pretty standard. If you can google it, you can, like, it's pretty standard. There is just series of steps you have to learn. As soon as you do it, you will be able to answer this question, so I'm not going to answer this question. Let's move on to the next part, that is life cycle of LWC. What is the life cycle of LWC? Again, it's pretty straightforward, but I'll just still provide what is the details inside it. First is the constructor gets executed, then connected callback gets executed. Inside connected we provide super so that we can extend the elements from the parent. Next, a render callback gets executed, then disconnected callback gets executed, and the error callback gets executed. Now you somewhat might think that render is also one of the life cycle of LWC. No, answer is it is a private method of lightning element component. So render is not the part of the life cycle, but usually we say that render is also the part of the life cycle of LWC. Let's move on to the next question. That is, what is the use of render callback in LWC? Now, basically, what is the exact use of render callback in LWC? So whenever you want to get the data, once the rendering is done, okay, once you're rendering like templative or all this kind of render is done, and if you want the data after the rendering is done, that's where you use render callback. A simpler way to explain this is in constructor or in connected callback, we cannot get the data of that particular element because data is still loading from the parent. That's the reason why we say in constructor or connected callback, data is flown from parent to child. But if you want to access the elements of the component or extend the elements, you access the elements, you can easily use render callback because in this case the data flows from parent to child. So this is what the render callbacks means in LWC. Let's move on to the next question. This, how can we pass the data from parent to child and child to parent inside LWC? Now I would like to highlight that in case of child to parent, you can pass the data in two ways. I will specify both of the two ways in this video, but let's first understand how to pass the data from parent to child. So let's consider you have a parent component and you have a child component as well. Let's say I'm going to go to the child.js, and inside that API, I'm going to create a variable named as API. Let's name it as test. Okay, now if you're going to call the child component inside your parent, okay, and you can directly use this test variable because now it's publicly available and you can pass whatever data you want, right? So this is way you can pass the data from the parent to the child. If you see, I'm passing the hello world, hello keyword from the parent, that is from the parent to the child. Now what if I want to pass the data from the child to the parent? What would we do in these conditions? Now for this there are two ways. Okay, one is via HTML markup. Let's talk about first of all HTML markup. In this case what happens is, let's say on click of a button, I'm not going to write the whole code, but just get the gist of it. As soon as I click on the button, what's going to happen is that I'm going to dispatch event. Okay, I'm going to create a new custom event in this. Okay, and the event name is, let's say, test. Okay, and I'm passing some details inside it. I'm not writing the perfect syntax, but the syntax is quite different as compared to this. Let's consider detail as new. Okay, I'm passing some kind of data as a parameter. Okay, now once I'm passing the event, okay, now there are two ways to handle the data from the parent to the child. One of the ways using the via HTML markup. Okay, let's understand how the HTML markup works. So what is the name of the event? Test. So in case of, if you are using HTML markup, what you can do is, instead of test you can write on test and you can say handle event, right? And inside the parent JS, okay, what you can do is you can create this handle event method and you can get the data like alert event dot detail dot message or something like that. You can get the data from the parent. So what's happening over here is that on click of the button, the event will get fired. Whatever the name of the event is, right now is test, is going to pass the value from the parent to the child, and using HTML markup means you are using on whatever the name of your event is, and you handle the event, and inside the handle event you can get the message. Now let's look into the another way. Another way is using add event listener. So let's talk about add event listener. So let's say again the data has been passed from the parent, from the child. Right now on the click of the button I'm going to fire the event. Now in order to handle it within the parent, one more way is add event listener. I'm going to do it later on. Let's say add evt listener. In this, what I'm going to do is, inside the connected callback, I can use this dot add event listener. Okay, and whatever the name of the event was test, comma this dot handle sh dot bind this, right? Using this, what will happen is, now you have handled the event inside the add event listener, and then you have to create your own handle message method, and inside this again you can get the data using this event.detail.message. So there are two ways, as we have understood right now. One of the way is nothing but using HTML markup, and another one was using the add event listener. So there are two ways. So let's move on to the next question, is that write an LWC component such that the component will have two buttons with named as select all and another one as deselect. When user clicks on select all the checkbox of the normal table must get selected. On the other hand, if we deselect all, the checkbox must get deselected. So that's what they wanted. Okay, so basically there would be a normal table. So let's first of all create a normal table using td and tr. Okay, so I'm going to create a table. Okay, as soon as I create the table, inside that what I'll do is I'll create table row. Okay, I'm not writing the perfect syntax again, but you can take the gist of it. Okay, let's say I have table row. Okay, and let's say I have multiple table rows. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is inside data hyphen id, basically I'm going to iterate, right? All the values that I'm going to get, I'm going to iterate over them from the wire. Whatever data I'm going to get, I will iterate over them. Let's say items, right? And for item data, okay, template. Now here what I'm going to do is inside the data hyphen id, I'm going to give data plus 1 or something like that. Okay, now using this, each of the row will have a unique name: data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4, or whatever it might be. Okay, I can just add 1, 2, 3 or something. I can just add something unique inside it at the end, let's say test or something like that. So every time the data will come, which will have at the test at its end. Now once that is done, I'll go to the JS. Okay, and inside the JS what I can do is I can create, let's consider there are two buttons now. Okay, outside the table, let's say button 1, button select all, and button deselect all. These are the two buttons that I have. Now as soon as the user clicks on select all, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the following. So first of all, I will use var all data equals to this dot template dot query selector all. Okay, and data hyphen id, we can get a specific type of data, like for an example, or we can get all the trs, right? For an example, okay, I'm just giving an example. You can provide the say, like for an example, let's say data is common in all of them. Okay, so let's say data, inside the data we will get data dot name, let's consider, or data dot, or else we can table row. Yeah, we can do it this way. Another way is the type is checkbox. Okay, let's consider type is checkbox. Okay, data dot, let's consider data over here. Okay, and data dot type I'm going to assign over here. Okay, in the data dot id. So whichever are checkbox, okay, I'm going to get all of them. Okay, and all data dot for each element. Okay, here what I'm going to do is if element dot type equals to checkbox, then in that case I will do element dot value equals to true. Okay, so if someone selects all, what it will do, it will query all the input box with of type checkbox. Okay, once it gets it, okay, I don't even need the data id over here, or we can do the template dot query selector all, and then we will get all the data, and from there I can check whether the element type equals to checkbox. I can make it true. The same way for deselect all, what I can do is I can just copy paste it, and whatever for deselect, if someone clicks on deselect, I'll just make this element dot value as false. So automatically, whenever someone is going to check the checkbox, it will get all the query selector, like all the data, and from which it will pick each one up by one and check whose type is checkbox. As soon as it finds the one which has the type checkbox, it will make it true. All the value will make true, or else in deselect it will make all the value as false. Now, before moving to the next question, if you're not feeling confident before going to any interview, you can have one-to-one mock interview with me by clicking the top met link below. So let's move on to the next question, that write an LWC code which will get all the active and active and inactive contact and show these active and inactive contacts separately. Okay, so for that I can use HTML1 and I can use JS1. Okay, inside JS, first of all, let's consider I wrote a wire to get all the contacts. Okay, I'm not writing the exact code, but you could understand it, right? Now if data, Okay, so once if data, as soon as I get the data, I will store it within two variables. So for that, I will create two variables, all active and all inactive. Okay, I'll create these two variables. Now what I'm going to do is data dot for each element. I'm going to check from each of the, using data I will get all the accounts, right, all the contacts, right? So if data dot is active from the account, I'm going to check whether it is equals to true. If that's true, then in that case what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the data inside all active variable dot push data, right? Else what we are going to do is we are going to push all the data inside the inactive list. Now once that is done, you have active and inactive contacts segregated. Now what you can do is you can use template for each. I'm just going to write for each. Okay, inside the for each, first let's do it for all the active contacts. We'll show all the active contact. Let's name it as active. Now here I'm going to show all the active contacts. Okay, similarly I can loop over all the inactive contacts as well. Okay, similarly I can show all the I can loop over the inactive contacts, and I can show all the inactive contacts one by one using LWC. So this was the answer for the next question. Let's move on to the last question that we have, that I have around 3 batch classes, then write a code which will together give me the total number of records executed and total number of records failed inside all the 3 batches. So it's pretty straightforward, like that they have 3 batch classes. Okay, they have to see in total all of the 3 batch classes, in total how many records are succeeded and how many records are failed. So how would you do it? So first of all, I'm just going to write a pseudocode. First of all, I'm going to use database.stateful, and along with that database.batchable. Okay, this is for all the batch classes. So let's consider batch one. Okay, in batch one, what I'm going to create is I'm going to create two lists of success and one more list of error, right? And now inside the start method, I'm going to query all inside the batch one. First of all, I'm going to query all the record. Okay, I'm not going to write this way. And then I'm going to go to the execute method. Inside the execute method, I will take database dot save result. Inside database dot save result, I'll get dr and database dot update. Okay, whatever data I will get from the start method inside the scope, I'm going to take that and I'm going to process all of them partially, comma false. Now once that is done, inside dr, I will get all the records which are successfully updated or successfully failed or something like that, right? So if dr dot is success, okay, if the record are failed, so in that cases I will add everything to the error list. Or else what we can do is we can add rest of the records inside the success list. Now it does not ends over here. After that you have to go to the finish method, right? You have to go to the finish method, and inside that, let's say I have one more batch 2. Okay, I will create a constructor inside the batch 2, okay, which will have two parameter. One is list of string or list of error success, comma list of error. So this will have a constructor, batch 2 will have one more constructor, and inside the finish method I'm going to call the batch 2 b equals to new batch 2, and in this I will pass the success list and the error list as well. Then once that is done, automatically all the success and error will pass to the next batch. Here again I will do the same process where in execute I will again get the success record and error record, and I will again append the success and error record. Again for the third batch as well, I will pass the values from the finish method to the batch 3. Here again I will execute, and once everything is done, at the end of the finish method I will mail everyone the number of records, total number of records that have been success and total number of records that have been failed. So these were the exact questions that were asked to me in my recent interview. If you found this video helpful, I request you to please like this video and subscribe to my channel.